Are we? Okay, we had our break, and I want to know if there's any further questions right now. Any questions? Okay, what I want to talk about now is just to cover the method of meditation, and then we'll go from there. You can hear me, correct? Okay. The method of meditation that we have is we place our mind on awareness. This awareness is the awareness of mind itself. This is not an awareness that is used within samsara. It is the awareness, but it's devoid of the self. And when we kind of peel off the self, then that awareness is very clear. This kind of awareness is what's called wakeful awareness. And this kind of a wakeful awareness is one that is utilized by awakening the mind itself and utilizing it in a way in which it is not attracting or grasping to mental states or mental objects or appearances. It is just simply settled down. And it, although there are objects that arise in mind, some of them internal are memory and appearances of different things and discriminations in mind, as well as what we call so-called outside appearances, which are outside of the consciousness, but within the other skandha of form, sensation, perception, volition. But we do not attach to those. Those are naturally appearing. We understand that we do not have to purge the mind from this dream. We simply have to understand that even in our wakeful awareness, the dream continues. I remember once I was talking to Shifu, and I was telling Shifu, I understand this now. And I caught him in the hallway. And it was very funny because sometimes I would talk to him, I don't need a translator. I don't even know why we needed a translator, because every time we were together, we could converse. I guess we were speaking in English, but he understood me and I understood him. And I told him the practice is like sticking a stick inside the spokes of a bike. And then it just falls over. It just stops. And Shifu thought about that, and he went, yes. And then as I was walking away, he said, Gilbert, but remember, it only stops for you. And so I thought about that and contemplated and was later understood that he was teaching to me it's not enough to be an arhat, but we have to be a bodhisattva. And once he had told me, oh, Gilbert, you can become an arhat. And I thought that he was complimenting me, but actually he was insulting me. And he was telling me, you're better than that. You can become an arhat. And I'm going, yeah. but, aloha, but that's not enough. We have to become a bodhisattva. And so even though the dream stops for us, it continues on. And we're aware of that. We're aware of this, but this wakeful awareness means that we understand the dream, and we understand not just that the dream is there, but the Buddhas that are caught up in the dream, that are enwrapped in it and bound by their own ignorance, that they cannot extricate themselves from the dream, and they long have lost their individual, I shouldn't say individual, their identity as a Buddha. And that is, for us, once we realize it, it's like the parable of the burning house and the father trying to get the children out of the house, and how he did it with expedient means to do so. But nevertheless, we understand that it is our function via mind to do this. You could call it a calling, but it isn't a calling of an individual. It's a calling of using this corporal flesh in conjunction with this wakeful awareness to bring about the delivery of innumerable sentient beings. When we understand this, then we understand we don't have to make everything disappear. We don't have to elevate Gilbert and make him illuminated, like shining. This is a foolish notion, and it's driven by conceptualization within mind. We just simply have to be aware in a wakeful way as to what is appearing. This is important. So there is this awareness there. And as we approach the cushion, we're using this wakeful awareness. Now, this wakeful awareness will become clear and stronger the more we adhere to it. But at least we understand the basics of it. And as we're approaching the cushion, we are generating this awareness, which is essentially generating the Buddha mind. We apply it in the present moment, and we already talked about this, that this present moment is different than the present moment of a sentient being, which is some kind of a linear continuum of time. The present moment of a Buddha is timeless. It is just simply, we stop with the dream. We don't need the dream. In fact, our whole purpose is to eliminate the dream. So we are in the present moment with this understanding that the present moment embodies both past and future, and is apparently localized in the present moment, but this present moment is the Buddha present moment. In this milieu of right view, in this environment of right view, we now put the method. We've already relaxed the body, we've relaxed the mind, and now the method comes in. We contemplate the method from a direct contemplation, which is not really contemplation per se. It is fixing the mind in the Buddha present moment on this method with no thought. So the mind is a state of Wu-Yen. There's no thought that it's there. we concentrate and use a sufficient amount of concentration to keep the method in the forefront of this awareness. You could call it a consciousness, but this is a consciousness of the Buddha mind, not of a sentient being. And we keep it there in a continuous way. So this is very important, that we don't practice the method with a very weak conviction. If we present a weak conviction, then it will result in a weak result. And as a result of that, you're just stuck in samsara, thinking that there's no way out. But there is a way out, and it is as easy as the goose is out of the bottle. You start your meditation with Buddha mind, and you keep it there. You are not trying to generate or crank up some sentient conception of what we think is Buddha mind. I've already given you a very important clue about all of this, which is that this very mind that you're using is the Buddha mind. You already have it. So all we have to do is have, give me 1 second. My son left and my dogs are knocking at the door, and it's kind of like the police knocking. They'll never stop. Hold on. Sorry about the interruption. Okay. My dogs are sociable, so they have to be around people if there's people around. So they will not stop to scratch at the door. Okay. After that, they're old enough to just fall asleep, hopefully. Okay. Back to what I'm talking about is that with this understanding, this awareness and practice will work, and the utilization of the method. You can adjust this to whatever method that you use. The one that's a little trickier is the Huatou, but essentially you can still use your Huatou, but you understand that the Huatou is appearing in mind, and we place our mind before the word so that we can observe the Huatou arising from mind. So this is something I just made up. This fits perfectly with Huatou, because we place the mind there and then let the Huatou come up, because that's the method. We're observing it, but as soon as the Huatou has completed coming out of the mind ground, we go and watch where it came out of and place our mind there. In the beginning, it's kind of like we can't get around fast enough to the front, and the new Huatou is already arising by the time we finish one getting there and then putting our mind back on there. But eventually, the mind's going to be able to get there just as the other Huatou that came up is finished. It is right there, and it will begin to observe the arising of the new Huatou. And it'll be there. In the beginning, it's like, who is reciting the Buddha's name? Who's reciting the Buddha's name? And we can't get there in front to catch the next iteration of the Huatou. But eventually, the mind, because it's no longer slowed down by causes and conditions and obstructions, it will speed up. And as it speeds up, it will catch and be there before the Huato comes out another time in the mind ground. And one is actually able to see the birth of the Huato in mind. Does anybody have a confusion about what I'm saying? Because this is really important in terms of those who practice Huato. That here it comes, and it comes right out of the mind ground. We see it. It is because the mind no longer has obstructions that the mind is coming close to instantaneous. It's no longer applying samsaric rules. It is sped up. And when we speed anything up, for instance, how do you create a slow motion picture? Any techno people here, how would you make a slow motion picture? Nobody. You guys flunked out of like theater arts. Nobody knows how to make a slow motion picture.
You shoot at a very high frame rate and
There,
play in the normal rate.
I knew as an engineer you would have to know that, but it's hard to get you to respond. So thank you. You speed up the frames per second of what's there, and then you're cramming in so many frames, then everything when on replay appears to be in slow motion. It is how the mind works. And remember, I had said earlier that there's times when you're waiting for reality to catch up with you, because the reality, the so-called reality, is the apparent reality of the samsaric world. But if the mind moves at this incredible speed, then everything needs to catch up to it. Because remember, the mind is what everything is projected upon. So it can control the frame rate. And when it's not obstructed, the frame rate of what is appearing in mind is almost close to it moves things in such a slow motion that it's hard not to catch all of these little subtle changes of things that are happening, and the mind is making decisions based on wisdom, and so it makes less and less mistakes as it goes along, because it is so far ahead of reality in terms of through body, speech, and mind, it makes the right decisions. This is how mind works. In the beginning, when one sees and works, let's say, in quote unquote normal samsaric time, it's hard to catch everything that's going by. It's hard to make a decision. So we just throw the dart and hope it works. Hope that's the proper response. But suppose that in any given moment of time, you had the ability to see 5 different options to the scenario before you. What should you do when somebody says, that Gilbert, he's such a stupid person, he has no idea what he's talking about? What would you do? Stick out your tongue, hit the person, insult the person, ignore the person, fight back? What would you do? In an instant of time, it's difficult to pick the right decision. But suppose you had an array of different options in the present moment to make a decision as to what to do. You would have a chance to pick the best option. Little by little, it's that way. And as the mind speeds up, you may have 20 options or 100 options. Eventually, no options appear because it's on the default setting of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. The Buddha doesn't have to think about it. The Buddha knows what to do automatically. But there's this transition from samsaric thinking to the Buddha mind. And the Buddha mind moves again at this incredible rate. It is able to process this information. So when you are practicing and meditating, your mind is actually moving at an incredible clip. It's able to see thoughts arising in mind, not just the what to, but thoughts. In fact, the ancients said that the crime is not that a thought has arisen in mind, but that we were not aware that the thought arose in mind. This is a regular mind, samsaric mind. We have no idea that the thoughts are there. When we notice them, they've already come into mind. But when the mind is moving and clear, it notices them. And there's even a name for them, effervescent bubbles. All of this percolation that we see, effervescent bubbles, they're just there waiting to come. But because the mind is moving so quickly, it is aware of all of these potentialities of things that can come into mind, things that can come into being. Not bad. If you can speed up the mind, everything looks like it's in slow motion. That's why it works with the Huatou. But it works with not being dazzled or confused by appearances that are arising while you're meditating, because you see them as bubbles. They haven't even come into mind yet. At some point, everything slows down like this. And when you're working on the Huatou, there may be a time when you're waiting for the Huatou to come up. Should be coming up now. What was the Huatou? What? You can't, it doesn't even come up. It's going like, why bother? Why bother coming up? And all of the illusory thoughts are the same way. They no longer come up. They're just going, you're not going to pay attention. And so we could say Mara, but the illusory ego sends up its best shots. You could win the lotto tomorrow if you bought a ticket. I'm sure of it. Or maybe your significant other is cheating on you. I think your boss is going to fire you. You really need that new car, so shiny. And it's sending up all of these major ones, but you're so far ahead of it, the head of them only breach into mind before they're just subsumed back into mind. It's this way. Just like the Huatou, you see the Huatou coming up, but it just recedes back. And it's very funny because as it's going like that, and you're looking there for where the Huatou comes in, the last vestiges of your ego get sucked in. You don't even have a choice to say to jump in the void. It pulls you right in because of the energy of the Huatou. This is when we're doing the Huatou right. It pulls you in. If we sit there and we use our meditation, irregardless of the method, carefully, there will be a self-absorption. All ideas of an individual life and being, personality, or an ego will essentially be sucked into mind. We don't have to destroy it. We just have to see, you know, Gilbert, you've always been part of mine. We've never said that you can't be part of mine. You're part of mine. The bad news is that this body's still going to die. The good news is that your mind was never born. So how could it even die? Okay, I'll take that. Not bad. But we have a fear of that. We're like on that Let's Make a Deal show, and we always pick the wrong door or window, even though we know clearly you can have this right here where Carol Merrill's at, and she has the illumination of the mind. Well, it's kind of bright. I'll take curtain number 3. Never take curtain number 3. Remember that. Never take it. You don't know what's behind there. And lo and behold, what's there? A donkey. What did he win? Next lifetime, he comes back as a donkey. It was right here in front of him, and he didn't see it. So let him start to work his way back up the ladder. So don't make the wrong decision. It's right there in front of you. And if you see this in the proper way, it will work. Remember the story I told you before, choose the Buddha. Every moment, choose the Buddha. It works. It really works. You have to have faith in it and faith in yourself that you can do this. You have to put down your self-conceit, self-love, self-illusion. But that's okay. It's all going to work out fine. I'm not the purveyor of some awful thing. I'm trying to help you get out of the bottle. Won't you trust me? Instead, you trust your ego. Like, open your eyes. You only have a few moments left in this lifetime. But it's enough time to do this. You still have it. But you have to. There, I've given you everything I've got in terms of energy to convince you to do this in the right way. Are there any questions about what you're doing on the cushion? No questions? Oh, Mark, oh, go ahead.
So, comment before I ask my question. I knew what was behind curtain number 3 before you said it, which was interesting. So I probably said donkey, a couple seconds before you did it. But I've had those experiences with you many times.
Yeah.
Anyway, question was about the Watto. I've experimented using the Watto, I guess, at different stages in my development. I'd say most recently this past spring, where I tried for a couple weeks. And when one goes to use the Watto, it's from the self. Again, it's from the ego. It's from, the conscious is there, and it's using the Watto. And then, as you were explaining, what happens with the Watto, at some point I assume there has to be that transition to where the Buddha mind is using the Watto. And because my experiments with the Watto, you can get exhausted, just physically exhausted using that. And my assumption is that maybe occurs when one is again, coming from the self or the self-conscious and applying the Watto versus applying the Watto from the Buddha mind.
Yeah, I think that you need to contemplate this, Mark. You're moving in the right direction with this and seeing. And then when you understand that we don't want to practice the Watto method with this illusory consciousness, because it will always get you tired. It will always pick the wrong door. It will present to you false signals of realizations that there you got it, Mark, that's it. And even the ego will come to present the ego with a celebratory championship cup. You're a champion, ego. Take it. And so you have to watch that. And so that's why I say, if you practice from this wakeful awareness of the mind, the ego isn't in the equation. It is in the equation to the extent that it is appearing in mind, and the mind is able to perceive the arising of the ego. And it treats it just as any kind of an arising thought or phenomena in a state of equanimity. So it doesn't let it get a foothold and push itself in front of mind with the method. Once it does that, you're not going to even see the method anymore. All you're going to do is see the ego machinations trying to tell you, oh, this is what you're doing with the Watto. Who is reciting indeed, who is reciting the Buddha's name? Who is reciting the Buddha's name? Make it a little faster, make it a little slower. You're almost there. And then it'll mess everything up. And you don't even know that. It has commandeered the mind. Remember, we don't negotiate with terrorists. Just let it go and go back to this wakeful awareness. So we have to become adept to recognize the arising of the ego. And the ego, it remembers, very clever, so it will bring all sorts of different ways to get you off. Initially, it's really easy for the ego. It says, oh, watch this Mark guy. No, all I have to do is throw so many thoughts at him. And I'm tired. This is not working. You see, I told you, it's so easy for him. Oh, now he's stable in his mind. All right, what am I going to throw at him? Pain. His legs are really hurting. Tell him that his pains, if he doesn't quit now, his legs are going to fall off. He'll buy it. Oh, I quit. Oh, I felt like my legs were going to fall off. Then what? Oh, he's sitting very good. Look how peaceful. He's past the leg pain. Sleep, sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. And you start rowing the boat. Once you go past those, then the self has to become more clever to do it, because now it's really afraid, because all of a sudden you're exposing it. So what it does is it comes off over onto the consciousness side, and it's saying to you, like, how you doing? You think we're doing good? Look, we haven't had a thought for a while now. You're really getting this. I think you're already enlightened. You should tell Gilbert about this afterwards. Even forget about meditating anymore. You already got it. You can tell him right now. And it's very, very clever in terms of how it works. We have to overcome all of that. The way we overcome it is not giving it any attention. We see that it arises. We know that it will come into mind. By causes and conditions, it will come into mind. But we continue with the wakeful awareness. And little by little, it will drop off. Then the mind is free. And we just keep it there. We don't try to get some confirmation of anything. Anything that comes up, stay with the method and it will work. So this is how we practice. I'm trying to give you every single possible scenario of what's happening and why this method works. Okay, anybody else? This is your chances that you have somebody, a well-known advisor, to help you polish up your method. So you all have great command of your method and you can sit completely for 30 minutes without any thoughts, right?
So yeah.
Hi, Gilbert.
Yeah.
I have one question about method. Is it fine if we use different method depending on the situation? Like practicing counting breaths on like normal condition, but when things are more difficult, it's harder to concentrate, we recite Buddha's name. Like, does the method itself really matter, or it really matter whether the mind is applying the method or not?
Well, abandoning the method shows that you have not been applying the method properly. Shifu would equate this to a young boy that goes into a candy shop and there's so many candies there, and he takes a bite of one and puts it down and curious about this one over here, this fudge candy, and he takes a bite of that and then picks up a cherry one, chocolate cherry. He eats that, and then a peanut butter one, and he just keeps jumping from one to one, and he's kind of afraid to commit himself to one candy because he might fill up. And Shifu says, all that gets him is a bad stomach ache. So it's better for you, for instance, let's say if you were using sun illumination and the wheels start coming off, sometimes it's that way, that you can go back to watching the breath, okay? But you should not be so quick to pull the parachute cord and get out of a method. You're better off hanging in there with a method and making it right. Otherwise, all you're learning is how to abandon methods. And so it will work for a while, but then you will want to jump to somewhere else. So kind of remember this kind of a story that I told you. You can do that. Let's say you switch from watching the breath to working without a net, which is illumination. Then you can't handle that, so you can go back to watching the breath with the idea is once you stabilize it, you go back into silent illumination. But if you try all these different ones, then it's like you fighting the ghost and making magic incantations and signs to fight the ghost. But then the ghosts know he doesn't have any faith in any of these incantations or mantras. We can get him. And sure enough, he can, because you're governing everything from the ego, and the ego is a coward. So then you lose the battle because you have no faith in it. So you have to develop this conviction to stick with methods and have faith in them. The reason I haven't talked about it and said, oh, this is the 100% best method is because there's 84,000 Dharma doors to go through. Anyone will take you through. You just have to have faith in it. So have faith in the method and faith in yourself and doing it right, and it will work. So I thank you for asking your question, okay? Because, well, either the people have been there or they will be there, and now they know what to do, okay? So thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I have a question.
Okay.
So do you have any suggestion on people reciting Buddha's name, Amitabha? Because usually teacher will say that when you recite, your mouth, you speak and recite, and then you hear clearly. So that's the method. And do you have any further suggestion?
Yes, in terms of reciting the Buddha's name, we recite it sincerely. We recite it in the way that we are giving respect to the Buddha or a Bodhisattva, Namo Guanxin Pusa. But we are also opening the mind to a direct connection with the Buddha or a Bodhisattva. So we make a direct connection to it, that this Buddha or Bodhisattva, that you become a vehicle of this Buddha and Bodhisattva. When we prepare an altar and we have the different Buddhas or Bodhisattvas that are there, we do not see it as an act of how would you call it? We see it as respect, but not to a particular entity, but what that statue represents, whether it's wisdom and or compassion or whatever. We are making this connection. Shifu used to call it a resonance, that we find the resonance, and that resonance is what we attune to. So as we're saying Namo Amitabha, Namo Amitabha, it comes out so natural, and we want to share this with everyone. We want to bring out these qualities that we inherently possess, because we're not other than the Amitabha Buddha or Kuan Yin Bodhisattva Guanxin Pusa. And so we are reciting with this wakeful awareness, that to make the connection, the resonance with that, so that we're drawing upon that to pull in this energy. So we use our inherent wisdom energy to generate a greater energy. So we should not just recite and go, did I hear it? No, what we hear is the resonance of this, of the commitment to a conviction to the ideals of the Buddha or Bodhisattva, if it's Pushen Pusa, to activity. Wenshu Pusa for wisdom, Guanxin Pusa for compassion. We use these in our daily life to embody these ideals. And so we see that in this way. So when you do that, truly expand your awareness and send this Namo Guanxin Pusa. You send it out, and you have in your mind the ability to spread this over a great field. It's like you have so many seeds in your hand, Namo Guanxin Pusa, and you cast it out with the heart that you want to reach more and more people, or you give it to one that really needs it. But in that way, you're giving it to all. This is a different way of looking at the Nianfo, because what we're doing is we are making the connection. We do have a respect for the Buddhas, but we also respect what the Buddhas represent, that inherently we have. And so we want to draw that out, and we draw it out by giving this unbridled respect and let's say allegiance with the faith there, but understanding that ultimately this very mind is the Buddha mind. And then that's why it works. And so if we do that, it changes the way we do it, instead of just going, you know, and you're just going like Nam Myoho Myoho, Nam Myoho Myoho, Nam Myoho Myoho, Nam Myoho Myoho. And it's just kind of like chewing cotton, you know. There's no flavor, there's no nothing to it. There's no energy to it. We pump it up with the energy. We generate these vows to be able to especially the 4 great vows, to utilize this, and then it becomes such an incredible, valuable tool. Okay, so if that's the way you're talking about how you use you use recitation, then we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, because I found out that usually when I chant the Amitabha Buddha's name, and it's something that it's repeatedly, and I won't feel boring, but I feel I'm training myself. It's become concentration. It's not really connect to Amitabha Buddha. So I'm thinking like, okay, probably it's like you said, it's Buddha's name represent Buddha and Buddha's merits, and so when I chant, and it's include all his merits and his power, but at the same time, like it's spreading this kind of merits share with all sentient beings, and also it's when I when recite Buddha's name, actually our mind is also Buddha's mind. It's no difference. I know I'm not at this level, but at least it's eventually our mind is no different from Buddha's mind. So that's why I ask.
Yes, that you're not far from it. I mean, if you understand this and you have faith in this way, it will work little by little, but you're not going to be around when you're finished, because in order to finish, you won't be there. Of course, your body will be there and you will function, but the mind is just mind. So, but you're well on your way with that. So that's good. Senta, go ahead.
Okay, I just thank you so much for that. So lovely, Nianfo. I just wanted to add that the picture that you showed of mind, watching mind, really applies to Nianfo as well. Just like Lena said, it's like the Buddha mind, evoking the Buddha mind through the name of the Buddha. So it is just such a beautiful, beautiful method. How can it not come together? Right? It's like the Buddha mind evoking the Buddha mind through the name of Buddha. So
because you have the right view, Senta. So to you, this fits very clearly, because your sincerity, your practice, you see this not in a doctrinal way, but the experience of it, and that makes the difference. So it's good. But when you espouse this or you talk about this, then you give faith to others to follow you and to say, it does work, it makes sense. And we see that, and even with some pitiful drawings that I do, I still try to make the emphasis on how mind works. So this is the way, it will be. And I have great hopes that Santa and some of my other students will exceed me. This is a true instructor's vow, is that we want them to go beyond what we do. There's no jealousy there. It is just the way it is. But when I say that, it should not be something that she thinks and says, wow, what an honor. She should think, wow, what a responsibility. And that's when Shifu would do something to me, that would be the first thing I thought of, is this is going to change my life. And it did. It definitely did. So do you know how many football games I could have seen today? But it's all right. It's okay. And then baseball games or whatever. We just do what we do. When I finish this today, I take a rest of this, and then I'm going to be resting because I'm going to be treating a cancer patient after this class. I never stop. I just have to squeeze it all in somewhere. So we'll see. Jing. Oh,
You need to unmute.
unmute yourself, Jing.
It doesn't work.
No, it does now.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay. When I doing meditation at the beginning, I will use some kind of like somebody was chanting Amitabha. I was chanting. I also use that method at the beginning of the meditation. I have used like the 7 chakra, the sound related to each chakra. I will chanting that, and also the 6 sounds that are associated with the organs. So when I just noticed when I do the chanting, I would like especially for the 7 chakra, the sound. So I was chanting, then suddenly I stopped chanting. Then I have a period, just like a pure blank in my mind. I did not realize I was thinking about something, but suddenly I realized why I stopped it. Then I stopped chanting. But in that time period, just totally blank. I don't know how long was that time, but just have I wasn't fall asleep because I was just starting meditation. So I know I wasn't asleep, but sometimes I was tired and doing long time meditation. Maybe I would doze, like if I fall asleep. So then I have those kind of period when I was doing a chanting, especially for the 7 chakra. And I would take me sometimes like even only 7 chakra, each I only say 3 times, but it would take me since a long time I sitting for 1 hour, like a meditation. I do a meditation a lot of times at evening, night. So it sometimes take a long time, but sometimes I will go through that 7 chakra, have nonstop and just keep going and going until I finish. But sometimes I keep stopping. Then at that time stopping, my mind is blank. I don't know what I did. Sort of like I was out or something, kind of strange.
I'm going to tell you an incredible story. And this story isn't because it would show how great or what powers I have or anything, because then I will bring it to this moment. But you have mixed in with, I don't know whether that's Tibetan or Qigong in terms of it, in the manner what you're saying, I think it's some form of Qigong. And you're looking for experiences. But in the upper levels of Qigong, there's so many different things that one can do. My gosh, I was so ignorant, and I was teaching people at the college, and one person came in limping, And I said, I can fix you. And I lengthened one of his legs and he walked out. And I was thinking, well, that was so strange. You know, that's kind of odd, you know, to be able to do that and say, oh, I'll lengthen your leg. This person had been walking like that for a long time. But there was a time when one of my friends, who happened to be a Qigong master, he came to my house. Very powerful. His chi, he could emit a chi that could push you back. And his name was Jack, and Chinese fellow. And he said that, I hear that you can travel. And I said, yes. And he said, I don't know how to do that. Can you show me? And I said, okay, I will show you. And where other people would, you know, Qigong masters would always hide all their best stuff. To me, it didn't matter. I mean, I would show people whatever. But he caught on very quickly because he was very adept at Qigong. And I showed him how to travel. We were there. And then, whoosh, he took off like Sheng, you know. But he was ignorant as to what he was doing because he didn't understand. I told him to stay with me, but he took off into the cosmos. And so I had to track him down. And he, every time I go here, he would jump to here. This is very interesting. And he would jump to here. And finally I caught up with him and said, we got to go back. You don't understand things about the travel or where you're traveling to. So when we started, it was in the early afternoon. And what appeared to be maybe 5-10 minutes of traveling, by the time I brought him back, it was in the evening. That's how much time had transpired in that part. You would say, wow, this is very incredible. You have such great skills or powers. It's baloney. It doesn't matter because there isn't wisdom there. This is why I became a Buddhist, because the wisdom was much more important. Who cares about what parlor tricks you can do with this? At the upper levels of Qigong, you cannot believe what can be done in the samsara world. I mean, it can really twist reality all around. But it doesn't matter. What matters is wisdom. So I say this to you, Jing, because don't seek the super mundane or the extraordinary. You have a good condition to practice Buddha Dharma. And in the end, that's where you belong. It's not by accident that I'm talking to you, because you need to come to this side to practice wisdom. And it will be easy for you because you already know how to manipulate appearances in the world. It's okay. You don't have to try to become the best of those things. And if you had seen the things or that I've seen or done, what I just told you, it doesn't even compare. But don't be caught up in that. Don't catch these extrasensory perceptions and all these other things. Leave it alone. Let it go. Just practice in the way that I told you. This wisdom is a wish-fulfilling gem. This is what we strive for, because that wish-fulfilling gem no longer says, I want to win the lotto, I want to have a big house, I want to have a fancy car, or whatever. It says, I don't need any of those things. They're just freedom and ease of body and mind. And it grants your wishes. Because all those other things that were attachments, they just drop off. Doesn't mean you can't have fine things in this life, but it means that we don't cling to those, or we don't cling to any kind of extra sensory perception. You are a good practitioner. You have a good condition to practice, a very, very good condition. You just have to focus it. Okay. For so long, I was searching for a master. And for so long, Shifu was searching for a student. And we came together. And it is in this way. It is rare opportunity. Okay. So please take this in the manner in which I'm presenting it to you. And say, okay, these things sound really fantastic, and but they're not really important in the long run. And there's more, because by not practicing the Qigong, let's say, per se, but practicing mind, my skill level is much better than ever when I was practicing Qigong. But that's not important. I put all that stuff to the side. If I need it, I need it. If I can use it, I can use it. And this is what I do. But I don't use it all the time. I don't put a shingle out and say, Qigong master, I can dirty deeds done dirt cheap, and put a spell on somebody or whatever. I'm not that way. But I sincerely practice, and I hope you will follow me. Okay, that was kind of a side interlude, but that's okay, because this class is one of learning about mind and learning about why we practice, and that's important. Any last questions? Jing, or did you come in and go? Oh, any last questions? Okay, then sit to meditate, and then we will stop at 6:30 and have share. And I believe that's what we're doing, right?
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead and sit to meditate, do your best, and then we'll come back and we'll close this out. So thank you very much.